Thank you, Madam President. Let me thank the delegations of Brazil and Ireland for convening this meeting today. I thank the Undersecretary General, Martin Griffiths, Chief Economist of FAO, Maximo Torero, and the Executive Director of the WFP, David Beasley, for their statements. The level of food insecurity has reached alarming proportions. More than 140 million people are reeling under conflict-induced hunger. Over 640,000 people face catastrophic levels of food insecurity in parts of South Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, Ethiopia, and other places. Afghanistan and Sri Lanka, in our own neighborhood, have also been seriously affected by the food insecurity crisis. The global impact of COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing conflicts, including in Ukraine, have impacted lives of ordinary people adversely, with spiraling energy and commodity prices and disruptions in global logistical supply chains. The adverse impact has been disproportionately felt by the countries of the global south and is already derailing their efforts to secure food security and eradicate poverty in the run-up to 2030. Madam President, a sudden spike in global prices of wheat and other food grains has put our own food security and those of our neighbors and other vulnerable countries at risk. A number of low-income societies are today confronted with the twin challenges of rising costs and difficulty in access to food grains. It is clear that hoarding and speculation is at work. In order to manage our own overall food security and support the needs of neighboring and other vulnerable developing countries, we have put in place some measures regarding exports of food grains. Let me reaffirm that these measures allow for export on the basis of approvals to those countries who request India's support in meeting their food security demands. Such a policy will ensure that we will truly respond to those who are most in need. It is imperative for all of us to adequately appreciate the importance of equity, affordability, and accessibility when it comes to food grains. We have already seen how these principles were disregarded in the case of COVID-19 vaccines, where open markets became the argument to perpetuate inequity and promote discrimination. With food insecurity challenges rising to global proportions, the steps we need to take are clear. First, food and energy security are both interlinked and have emerged as pressing issues. We reiterate that the international community needs to work collectively to find common solutions through dialogue and diplomacy. In this regard, we appreciate the efforts of the Secretary General in establishing a global crisis response group on food, energy, and finance, in opening up the exports of grains from Ukraine via the Black Sea, and the facilitation of exports of Russian food and fertilizers. Second, rapid humanitarian access to people in need in all areas affected by conflict and violence is critical. At the same time, the UN guiding principles on humanitarian assistance, humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence are paramount. These measures should never be politicized. Further, we need to avoid linking humanitarian and developmental assistance with the progress in political process. At the same time, we have also seen disturbing trends in recent past of humanitarian aid, including much-needed fuel supplies for the World Food Programme being looted. This is unacceptable. Third, the growing food grain shortages can only be addressed by going beyond the constraints that bind us presently. We welcome the recent decision by the WTO to exempt purchases of food by WFP for humanitarian assistance from the food export restrictions. However, this is not enough. We need to go beyond that to make a real difference and unshackle the limitations on food exports. Finally, armed conflict and terrorism combined with extreme weather, crop pests, food price volatility, exclusion, and economic shocks can devastate any fragile economy, leading to food insecurity and increasing threats of famine. The capacity building support to countries facing these issues in designing, implementing, and monitoring policies and programs related to food is therefore extremely critical. As for our own track record of helping our partners in distress, even in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic and ongoing conflicts, India has never been found wanting. We have provided food aid in the form of thousands of metric tons of wheat, rice, pulses, and lentils to several countries, including our neighborhood and in Africa, and to strengthen their food security. In the last 3 months alone, India has exported more than 1.8 million tons of wheat to our nearest partners, including to Afghanistan, Myanmar, Yemen, and Sudan. India will continue to walk the talk when it comes to assisting its partners in need. Thank you, Madam President.